Hi, it's Emma. Hope you're all keeping well. So we are going to do a healthy backs class, which is all about the back. It's about mobilising that back, strengthening the back so that we've got an easier and healthier back to live with. So for this class, what you either need is something like a small ball like this, or if you haven't got one of these balls, just a rolled up blanket or towel and a band and a spiky ball or tennis ball would be helpful, but if you don't have one of those, don't worry. So spiky ball, one of these ones here, but if you haven't got one, don't worry about it, you can use something else. It's going to move those all off to one side to start off with, and we'll come back to these pieces of equipment during the class. I'm going to start off in an all fours position, so 4-point kneeling. If you can't kneel, I'll give you an alternative, and just come to standing and I'll give you the alternative to do. But in all fours, just line up your knees in underneath your hips and your hands roughly in underneath the shoulders or slightly further forward if you've got issues with your wrists. Spread those fingers wide. Take a moment to just check your pelvis is neutral, that spine is in neutral and your neck is long. And we'll take some flexions and extensions into the spine. So you tilt the pelvis under, you start to raise the belly, raise that lower back, raise your middle back and raise your upper back, and drop your head and look back towards your feet, and we call this cat stretch. And then return the pelvis, return the spine, return the neck to neutral, reversing that, lifting the tailbone, pressing the belly down, pressing the chest forward, lifting the chin. So just returning back to neutral and coming into that cat stretch, flexing that spine, taking that extension through the back, and then taking that extension. Now when you take that extension, think about pressing the belly down, think about pressing the chest forward and the shoulders plugging back into their sockets. You've got energy through the pads on the palms of the hands and your arms are straight, with a slight external rotation into the shoulders and the inner elbows are moving forward and out. Good, so with this exercise we're mobilising into the spine, and if you're struggling to do this, what you can do as an alternative is standing, and you can take some standing flexions and extensions through the spine, just making sure that you've got a bend in the knee, so you're coming into a squat position and you're flexing and extending that spine from standing. Good, so next time you take that extension where you're lifting the tailbone and the chest is pressing forward, just bring yourself back to a 4-point kneeling position. We're going to take our sitting bones back towards our heels, take a child's pose, extend those arms forward, feel that stretch into your lower back, feel that stretch into the mid back and your upper back, and bring yourself back to all fours again, and do that a few times. Now if you can't kneel, do this standing. So what you can do is you can do some roll downs. So you nod your head, you C-curve the upper back, you can soften through the knees, bring that stretch into your lower back and roll yourself back up again. That's your alternative. Okay, we're coming back to an all fours position, 4-point kneeling. Again, if you can't kneel, you can do this standing. Just check you've got appropriate connection to your core. Your shoulders are back, your neck is long, your pelvis is neutral. Reach and extend your right leg away behind you. Lengthen those toes. And then simultaneously, if you'd like to, you can slide the left hand forward and glide your left hand and right foot off the floor. Good, your toes are soft, your fingers are extended. We're going to lower that hand, lower that knee down towards the floor, and then switch it to the other side. So reach and extend your left leg away and your right hand forward, and glide that foot and hand off the floor. So if it's too much to do the arm and the leg, you just do the legs and just keep the hands on the floor stable so that they support you. The hips are level, the shoulders are stable, the neck is long. Just check that you're not gripping on through the neck there. And we're just alternating one side and then the other. You might like to add in a flexion at the ankle, so you're pressing the heel away. And if you're doing this standing, you can just maybe hold on to something, and it's an extending of the leg away, potentially hovering the foot off the floor as you do opposite arm to opposite leg. So this exercise is really great for strengthening those core muscles, which in turn support the back. You've got that spine in neutral alignment. It's strengthening those upper arm muscles when you lift one hand off the floor. Last one, left leg, right arm, return. Take a cat stretch. Draw the pelvis under, arch through the back, just to release off through the back. And then we'll come down to lying on our front. So come to lying on your front. We're going to take diamond press. So feet are at least sitting bone distance apart. Bring your thumbs together and your index fingers together so you make a triangle with your hands. Elbows are out to the sides. And you're going to rest your forehead on that triangle. Now, if that's too tight for your shoulders, separate the hands away from one another. You skim your nose along the mat, you lift the face, you lift the chest, you lift your upper ribs, keep your lower ribs connected, shoulders down away from your ears, and then you return those upper ribs, nose, forehead back down towards the floor. So skimming that nose along the mat as you take that extension through the back, keeping those lower ribs connected and then returning back down. You want to get a sense that your upper back muscles are doing the work. Middle part of the back will be doing the work, but the lower back wants to just stay out of this, yeah? It's keeping itself relaxed. The glutes are relaxed also, so there's no gripping on through the glutes. And let's just do a couple more of these. And last one. Good. Now we're going to take it into Cobra Prep. So you might want to just rest with your head down on the tops of your hands for a few moments. And then when you're ready, we'll take the hands out wide to the long edges of the mat. The hands roughly sit at the height of your face. The elbows are underneath your wrists. Take a breath in, brush the nose along the mat and then peeling the chest and the head off the mat. Your upper and lower ribs will come off the mat this time. And then returning the front of the body back down. So start off with the elbows on the mat. You'll feel that working into your bicep muscles as well as working into the upper part of your back. You might start to lift the elbows off the floor if you've got the availability and come up a little bit higher. So you've got to check in with how that feels on your back. You might feel that the glutes start to engage a little, but don't over clench. And let's just do 2 more of these. And last one. And we're going to press ourselves up. We're going to bring ourselves to all fours. Take ourselves back to child's pose. If you can't kneel, come onto your back and hug your knees in towards your chest. That's your alternative. Just soften your shoulders down around by your ears. Okay. So we're going to come up to a high kneeling position, and if you can't kneel, do this sitting. So we're going to take a lateral stretch through the spine, a side stretch through the spine. So you can sit and do this sitting or standing as well. We're going to step the left foot out to the side and bring that left ankle in line with the pelvis. Your toes turned forward. We're going to bring that left hand to rest on the top of that left leg. Sweep your right arm up and out. And then we're going to lean over towards that left side. So bring that left ear down towards that left shoulder and then bring yourself back up again. And we'll repeat that. So just reaching over towards the side and then returning. And then 1 more of these. Good. And then bringing yourself back up and lowering the arm down. We're going to switch the legs over. So left knee comes in underneath your left hip. Step the right foot to the side. Turn your toes forward so they're the same direction as your hips. Right hand comes to rest on right thigh. Sweeping the arm up. And ear comes to the shoulder as you reach over towards that right side. So try and maintain length through that right side of the body. Don't collapse. Keep your shoulders stacked. Last one. And lateral stretches are vital for maintaining the health of the spine. We need to work the spine in all ranges of movement. So let's come to lying on our back now. And this is where we want our either ball or rolled up blanket or towel. So we're going to insert the ball or the rolled up blanket or towel at the back of our ribs, roughly in between our shoulder blades. Now just raise your hips slightly and just allow the back of your pelvis to rest on the mat. You're in a semi-supine position with the legs and your feet are level with the hips and your hip bones. Take your hands, bring them around the back of your head, elbows slightly forward in your peripheral vision. We're going to start to look along the front of the body and then lean yourself back over whatever you've got underneath your ribs, so a ball or a rolled up blanket, and allow the shoulders and the elbows to melt over that ball, so you bring an extension into that back, and then lift the forehead up, lift the elbows up, engage at the core muscles, aim your forehead as high as you can till you can go no further, and then look along the front of your body so you take that flexion. Then we're going to release that back. Slowly does it, take your time. Take that extension over that ball, allowing the elbows to open outwards. Long neck, enjoy that stretch into the thoracic region of the spine, and then bringing yourself back up again. So what's quite nice about this one is it's an extension into the back, but we're working with gravity in that we're allowing the head and the upper body to just release over that so that we take the extension. Often we take the extensions where we're working against gravity. Just keeping that space between the chin and the chest, and just keep going with these. Just make sure no arch is creeping into your lower back. You're maintaining that neutral arch just as you started with. The pelvis is still, it's not moving. And one last one. Good. And then bringing yourself up, and then to come off, just roll yourself off to one side. Just remove that ball or blanket or whatever you're using. And then just hug your knees in towards your chest. So lie back on your back, hug your knees in towards your chest, and take a little rock there from side to side. So I'm going to lower those feet down towards the floor. I'm going to take the arms out to the sides at about shoulder height. We're going to bring the feet alongside one another, knees together. Just check that pelvis is in neutral, and we're going to take hip rolls. So it brings a rotation into the lower part of your back, stretch into the hips. Take a breath in, breathe out, allow your hips and your knees to roll to the right side of your mat. Work towards keeping your feet stacked if you can. If that's not possible, then just allow the upper foot and leg just to release down onto the mat. Want to use the waist muscles to draw those knees back up, return the feet flat to the floor, find that neutral pelvis, and then take your hips over to the opposite side. It's going to take the knees towards the left side, your head can turn and look towards the opposite hand, and then use your waist muscles to lift those knees back up again, return that pelvis to neutral. And we're just going to alternate one side and then the other. Just a turning of the head. And some of you might like to work higher up into the spine. So next time you go to the left side, bring yourself back to neutral, and then take a double knee fold, one leg at a time, and then start taking your legs and hips over to one side, return back to centre, and then over to the other side. Now this isn't recommended for those of you that have issues with your lower back, so bulging discs, issues with the lower discs. Avoid this one, just keep your feet on the floor. you need to have a strong core. You'll feel that stretch running along the armpit through the chest. And we'll just do once more each side. Just make sure you've done each side the same amount of times. Bring the hips back to neutral, knees back to neutral, and then hug the knees in towards the chest if that's appropriate. And then lower the feet down. Just extend and release off through the legs, open up through the hips. Take the arms up over the head, take a full body stretch. And then rebend the legs, lower the arms and hands back down by your sides. We'll take some spine curls, really another great one for mobilising that spine. So semi-supine position, resetting there. Pocket of air between your lumbar spine and the mat, palms flat down. Start with some pelvic tilt, so you tilt the pelvis, curl the pubic bone up towards the navel, and then release that pubic bone back and just allow that arch to creep back into that lower back. So just starting off with some pelvic tilts, just noticing how that feels on the lower back. And we can start to add in some spine curls, so you tilt the pelvis, lower back imprints, lift your tailbone, lift your hips, lift your lower back, middle back, come up to the lower tips of your shoulder blades, and then lower your upper back, middle back, waist, tailbone down to the mat. Good. Just rolling that spine sequentially off the mat, and then wheeling that spine back down again, working sequentially through the spine. So there's some tone to my glutes as I lift. There's some tone to my belly. Again, my back in terms of the work is doing very little. It's my thighs, my glutes, my abdominal muscles that are helping to lift and lower the pelvis up and down and the back up and down. You can add in the arms, so you roll that spine off the mat, come into that spine curl, take the arms all the way up and over, resting on the floor, and then wheel that spine back down on the floor, lengthening the tailbone away, and then release the arms back down by your sides. So we wheel that spine off the mat, we take the arms 180 degrees, and then we wheel the spine back down on the floor, and we lower the arms back down by the sides. So keep going with these. If you're finding it's pressure on your knees, you'll need to take your feet further away from your sitting bones, and that should help to release off the pressure on the knees. We'll do one more of these. And lowering down. Good. Just hug those knees in towards your chest. You might like to take the forehead up to meet the knee, so flex the upper body. You've got a stretch running through the top of those back muscles, the rhomboid muscles, the trapezius muscles, the erector spinae, and then lowering the upper back and head back down. Good, returning your feet down. So this is where you need your spiky ball or tennis ball, and if you haven't got that, don't worry, I'll give you something else to do as an alternative. So we're going to just take the spiky ball in underneath one glute. I'm going to massage. So what you want to do is try and let your weight drop into that ball and massage into that spiky ball. You can do this sitting. You can use two balls if you wanted to. And just have a spiky ball in underneath the glutes and just massage it round both of them. I find if you work on one and you drop a bit more weight into it, you can really get into those tender spots. If you find a tender spot, just let that weight drop into it and hold it there. Now, if you haven't got one of these, you might like to invest in one. They're quite cheap to purchase. You can always contact me for details. You can come to sitting, roll your knees and hips to one side, and then just bring one glute off the floor, and you make a fist with your hand and you massage into the glutes there, getting into the muscles, and you might feel some tender spots there. Just really working that out if you can. So we're going to switch to the other side. So taking the spiky ball to the other side again, dropping the knees and the legs over to that side, just rolling around, letting the weight be heavy, maybe letting the knee come out to the side, staying still, holding it statically. Just relaxing through the chest. Good. Okay, and then just stopping there with that side. If you came up to sitting, bring yourself back down to lying. And let's take our feet out as wide as the long edges of the mat and open your arms out to the sides. We'll take knee rolls now. So we're going to roll our knees over to one side on the mat. Feel that stretch running into the glutes. It's working into the hips. We're externally rotating one leg and internally rotating the other. Lift those knees back up and take it over to the other side. So you might like to turn and look towards the opposite side of your knees. And just make sure you've done each side the same amount of times. And we'll just finish off with a stretch through the legs. Now it's a good idea to grab a belt or a band or something to put around the sole of the foot. So I've got a band, but if you haven't got anything to hand, you can just rest your hand at the back of the thigh. So bend your left leg, have your left foot resting on the floor, bring your right knee in towards your chest. I'm going to use a band, but as I've said, you can use your hands around the back of the thigh and extend that leg up towards the ceiling. Draw the toes in, press the heel up, and just have your shoulders releasing down towards the floor, chin drawn in. So make sure you're not locking out that extended leg, your right leg. Might want to press that heel a little higher. Might like to walk the hands up a little bit higher if your band's stretching. Bring that foot in a little bit closer in towards the face without pressing into your left foot. Now let's open that out. So bring both parts of the band into your right hand. Open your left arm out to the side. You might like to open your left knee out to the side as well when you open your right leg out to the side, just to counterbalance the weight of the leg, or alternatively extend that left leg along the floor. My hips are level, my right shoulder's relaxed. And then draw those legs in towards one another. I'm going to take a little stretch into the IT band, the iliotibial band. Draw your right leg across to the left side and aim the right toes towards the left armpit and the heel towards the right side of the mat. I'm feeling that stretch running along the calf. To intensify it a little bit more, you can lift the left side of your, lower the left side of your right foot down, and the right side of your right foot, you just lift that up. And that just intensifies and changes the stretch ever so slightly. Good, just bring that foot and ankle back to neutral, lift that leg back up, bend that leg. Let's switch the feet over. So right foot comes down onto the mat, left foot extends in the air, pressing the heel away, drawing the toes in, nice long straight neck. You might again walk your hands up the band, bring that foot in a little bit closer, soften and relax through the shoulders. Breathe. Take both parts of the band into the left hand. Option to open the right knee out to the side or extend that right leg. And then open your left leg out to the side. So just check that the pelvis is on the mat, your hips are level. Just make sure you're not rolling that right side over to your left side. And then bring those legs back in towards one another. Switch the band into the opposite hand. Open your left arm out to the side. Or draw that leg in just slightly over towards the right side. Then turn the left toes towards the right armpit and the heel towards the left side. and then drawing the right side of that left foot down and the left side of that left foot up. So you should be feeling that stretch. Bring that leg back up again. Gently does it. Lower that leg down. Good. We'll just place that band to one side. Just take a full body stretch here. Just reach and extend through the body. And I just want us to take a lunge as well. So what the lunge does is it stretches and opens into those hip flexors. You might want to pad out one of your knees, so you could use a blanket underneath your knees or a block, or double up the mat in underneath your knees. So I'm going to position that in underneath my left knee, and I'm going to step my right foot forward. I'm going to wiggle that right foot quite a bit far forward so that the ankle is forward of the knee. My shoulders are aligned over my hips, my hands are on my hips. Just going to start to move the hips forward, just checking that I don't bring the lower back into too intense of an arch. There will be a little arch there. Just make sure that doesn't over extend into that arch. I'm watching that front knee moves towards the middle toes, and I'm feeling that stretch run along the front of that left thigh as well as the hamstring muscles of that right leg. So you can come in and out dynamically, or you might like to hold it here and add your hands into that front thigh. Sink the hips a little bit lower. Feel that stretch into the inner thighs. I've got a sense of openness through the chest. My chin's parallel with the floor and I'm looking forward. I'm going to take my hips back. I'm going to slide that front leg back. I'm going to switch the padding to my right knee and step that left foot forward. Check my feet are in line with my hips and wiggle that left foot forward, hands on the hips. Slight tilt of the pelvis. I'm going to start moving in and out dynamically, just checking that I'm not overextending into that lower back. Breathing out as I come forward and inhale as I return. You can go slower than this if you want to. And you might like to just continue coming forward and back, or you might like to hold the stretch here. That's a deep lunge. Try and encourage the shoulders down away from the ears, sinking the hips a little bit lower down towards the floor. Stretch running along the front of that back thigh and underneath of that front thigh. I'm going to take those hips back. I'm going to slide that front leg back. And I'm just going to take myself back into a child's pose. And if you can't do child's pose, lie on your back and hug the knees in. And then bring myself back up again. And that's it. That's a little bit of a workout there for your back. Just to, as I said at the beginning, strengthen, mobilise, keeping your back nice and healthy. So maybe not all the exercises were specifically working on the back, but some of those stretches we've taken will definitely help to alleviate some of the tightness that you may suffer